And look who's coming up.
Just about 5 o'clock in the east, 3 o'clock in the mountain time zone where I am located, watching playoff baseball. The Phillies holding off the Braves 7-6. The Mariners up 5-2 on the Astros. Still to come, the Guardians and the Yankees, and the Dodgers and the Padres. Little brother versus big brother in California. You know what? The Dodgers-Padre rivalry is pretty good. I grew up with the Oilers-Flames rivalry, which I think is the best one. And I know my next guest, Derek Van Diest, loves watching those games, covering those games with Post Media and NHL.com. And DVD, it looked like that rivalry was going to be dead in the water this summer when the Flames were going through their problems. Thanks to Brad Tree Living, we will have it again. Are these the top two teams in the Pacific Division in your mind, or do you think somebody like Vegas or Vancouver or somebody else can sneak in there?
Yeah, I think that they're the two teams. Without going into the season, I think there's an issue where you're waiting to see. Calgary, they lost the two of their best players, and they've replaced them. And you're right, Brad Tree did a great job of replacing those players and keeping the standard high. And then you have Brent Sutter there, Daryl Sutter in Calgary that, of course, gets the most of his players. So it'll be very interesting to see what happens there. They still have good goaltending, they have defense. It's just a matter of how many goals can they score. Will they have to beat everyone 2-1 and things like that? So can they score goals? But I think defensively and goaltending, they're pretty solid. So I think they're still going to be a really solid team, and of course you have the Oilers who really kind of loaded up. And you look at the roster that went to Game 4 of the Western Conference Final, and this one looks better. Obviously they've shored up their goaltending. They got some defensive help, and they got some bit of injection of energy and youth in Dylan Holloway. So I think the Oilers, to be honest, will run away with the division. I don't know. They'll be challenged, everything together, and play as well as they're expected. I think they'll run away with the division, but it'll be interesting to see what Calgary and Vancouver slots in. I'd like to see how much gas has in the tank. Almost they went all in early on, and then now got some of those veterans there that maybe get a little long in the tooth to see how much they get. And then I don't think you can discount the Los Angeles Kings and what they did last year and how much that playoff run, just getting to Game 7 first round, does for a young team into the following season.
Duty, I'm just going to get you to just log out quickly and log right back in. We're just getting a bit of an audio jump. So if you can do that just real quickly, and we will get right back to you, man. And then,
sure.
Yeah, that would be great. We're just getting a little hiccup. So just quickly log out and log back in. It should fix that. And while we're waiting for that, I think some really good points. I mean, this is an LA King team that almost upset the Oilers, who went to the quarterfinal or the conference finals. So they're going to be a lot better. I think the Calgary Flames are actually improved over last year. I think Huberdeau is going to make a bigger difference than Johnny Gaudreau, offensively and defensively. So I really think that this Calgary team is better than they were last year. With those additions and Mackenzie Weegar. And I look at that Florida team, and I don't think that they are as good, nearly as good as what they were last year, especially that blue line. So I think that's what's going to be what's going to make the Battle of Alberta better, is that the Flames, I think, got better up front and on the blue line, and obviously they were pretty good. I think they're going to be a little tougher to play against. And the goaltending for the Oilers is going to be much better. I mean, Jack Campbell coming in as the number one guy is in my opinion, a lot better. And I think a lot better than the combination of Mike Smith and Koskinen. So I think so anyway. I think that it's going to be a better Flames team, but I also think a better Oilers team because of that goaltending. We got DVD back now, and I was just saying, I think the Flames are actually better without Gaudreau, with Thibodeau, with Mackenzie Weegar, and I think the Oilers are better as well, even though they're, you mentioned Dylan Holloway, but Jack Campbell, I just think is a much better option, and Stuart Skinner is going to push him. So if you had to pick which team improved over the offseason between the Oilers and Flames, what would you go with?
Well, I would go with the Oilers because the Oilers did not lose that type of offense that the Flames did. The Flames have to replace that offense from Gaudreau and Tkachuk, and as well as they did to bring those guys in, I don't think Huberdeau does replace that offense, and I think they're still going to have some issues scoring goals as opposed to last season. What I do think, though, I think the Flames are a bit more of a playoff-ready team than they were last year. The knock on Gaudreau obviously he's a perimeter player. He plays on the outside. When things get tough in the playoffs, he doesn't really go to the net. He doesn't go to the hard areas. I think he had a couple of really good games in the playoffs, but I think that was one of the knocks on him. And I think now that the Flames have that team, they have that team that plays hard, goes to those areas, and will sacrifice to win games. And I think the Oilers, they know what it takes as well, and even their star players are willing to make those commitments and willing to make those sacrifices, and they saw that that's what it takes to get to this conference final, and that's what it takes to get beyond a conference final. So I think the Oilers didn't lose anything to me. I think there was little subtraction when it comes to the Oilers, and they just added. I think Jack Campbell, you're right. That's a big piece because just in the fact that, if he stays healthy and he plays well, he gives them that solid goaltending. Mike Smith was up and down. Mike Smith can have great nights and had terrible nights. Mike Smith wasn't always healthy, so he couldn't have been relied on. So I think that was one of the issues with Mike Smith last year. And Mikko Koskinen, we knew what he was. He was an average goaltender that every now and then had a pretty good game. So I think that was the situation with Mikko Koskinen. But now you're right. They have two pretty good goaltenders. Stuart Skinner proved last year that he can play in this league, that he can push your starting goaltender. Ken Holland said he wants to see a 50-30 game split, something like that between the two of them. So he's not going to sit on the bench and just open the door all season. He's going to get his opportunity as well. And if he can push Jack Campbell, the both of them, I think it's going to help the Oilers a lot. So I think the Oilers' goaltending situation is as stable as it has been since maybe Evan Dubnyk was here towards the end of the season, since maybe Dwayne Rolison was here. And it's been a while since it's been that stable, I think, for the Edmonton Oilers.
I'm totally with you on that. I was talking about that the other day, is that I think Rolison, that great playoff run, and then the next year was probably the last bit. And, isn't it amazing? This is how it goes, and you can read in Wayne Gretzky's autobiography about them walking past the dressing room against the Islanders and realizing, it's not just easy to win a cup. And every team kind of goes through this evolution of, having a bit of a run, realizing that we can't just be all fun and games and score 6,000 points and win. It takes a different kind of hockey. And it seems no matter what the sport is, there's always that light bulb moment that goes on for each team. And maybe this is it for the Oilers.
Well, you think about it. Look at the struggles and the frustration that the Avalanche went through in those playoff series. They lost a lot of playoff series before they won. And you have to go through that. You almost have to learn by that. It's very rare that a team doesn't have that adversity and goes on to win a championship. So you look at some of those championship teams, even back in the Oilers' day, they lost to the Islanders and they had to realize, okay, this is what it takes to win. The Islanders were the same way back then when they lost to the Maple Leafs. This is what it takes to win. And so you see that. You saw that the evolution of the Colorado Avalanche went through that. Tampa Bay Lightning went through those frustrations. They lost in the first round of the Columbus Blue Jackets that one year where everyone thought, hey, they're going to roll over everyone in the East. So you have to go through those moments, and you learn from those moments, and you appreciate those moments. And I think it's important to learn from that. I think they learned a lot from the 4-game sweep against the Winnipeg Jets. I think they learned a lot from the losing 4 games to the Chicago Blackhawks in the play-in tournament. And so I think they took those lessons, and they were, it was tight. They went to Game 7 in the first round. Had they lost to Los Angeles, that would have been another huge disappointment for the Edmonton Oilers. But they were able to get over that hump. They got over that hump. Then they beat Calgary, and I think it's just a matter of now they just want to take that next step. They want to get back to the Western Conference Final, and they want to challenge to get into the Stanley Cup Final. And then from then, who knows what can happen. But you have to learn those lessons, and they're tough lessons to learn, and the only way you can do it is by experiencing them.
Yeah. By the way, Yuri Gurriel has hit a home run for the Astros. It's now 6-3. The Mariners leading that one in the bottom of the fourth. And maybe the reason they were able to get past LA in that Game 7 is because of the tough losses to Winnipeg and Chicago before that. And then, as you mentioned, like Nathan MacKinnon. Remember Nathan MacKinnon a couple of years ago at the podium? Like, he was pissed and mad, and you could tell, like, I'm sick of this. And then they got over the hump, and that's what I look at. I look at this Western Conference. I still think it goes through the Central Division. You still could have 5 teams from the Central. Colorado was great. I think St. Louis is just an excellent club every year. Nashville looks like they're coming along. I mean, do you think the road to the final still ultimately is the Centrals to lose in the West?
Well, I think they're the toughest division. I think every night in and night out, they're going to have some tough games, and then they're going to be beating up on each other a lot this year. I think the Pacific Division is not as tough. I think there's just a lot of teams that are still kind of in that rebuilding mode and still trying to develop some younger players. So yeah, I agree with you. That Central Division is a tough division, and it's going to be a war every night, because you got 3 or 4 teams that are capable of winning that division. I think, unlike the Pacific, which I think is the Oilers to lose, I think there's a lot of teams there that can make some noise and really are kind of in that prime part of their development where they're trying to get that window, that winning window to open. I think St. Louis was there. It closed a little bit, but they're trying to get it back, and I think that's what's going to make them such a strong team this season. So there's going to be a lot of competitive teams in that Central Division. I agree with you.
Yeah, it's going to be really fun, and like I look at the Oilers' schedule, and it's great. Like when have you ever seen a 6-game homestand to start a season? It's great for the writers. You don't have to travel right away. But this is really huge for the Oilers and some winnable games. Like, I was going through the schedule last night. I think the Oilers can win 51 games this year. I think they can get to 51, and I think that would be enough to win the Pacific. And, we've seen this team get off to terrible starts. This is an opportunity to get off to a really great start at home for this team.
Yeah, it's been handed to them. It's 6 in a row to start the season, and I believe it's 9 of the first 12 at home.
Yeah.
So you're looking at a real nice runway here. And we've seen the Oilers teams in the past that have been successful and made it to playoffs. They get off to good starts. You get off to a good start, you kind of build that bank account, and then if you have troubles throughout the year, if you have a little dip, then you're able to survive them. I think that the problem comes when you don't get off to a good start and then you're chasing the season all year. I think that's an issue. But you look at this schedule, and if the Oilers come out and if they can win 5 or 6 at home to start the road trip, and then they can win 2 more, they're in really good shape going forward. And I think that's what they're looking at. And I think that's why training camp was so important, because they got to get off and they got to start right away. And they know they can't squander these 6 games. They can't squander the 9 of 12 games. They know that the back end of that schedule is going to be a little tougher. So you don't want to be chasing a playoff spot when you're playing most of your games on the road. So you want to make your hay early on in the season. And I think it's important to lay down a really, really good, solid 10, 15, 20 games, lay down a good foundation, and then go from there.
Yeah, well, at least they're not starting in Europe right off the season, because I think those ones are tough to get past. Speaking of Europe, you were just there, well, recently, since the last time we talked. You were going to watch Canada play in some friendlies. Before we get to what you thought of the squad, the big story is right now with Canada is Alphonso Davies. I'm just reading he's not going to play for Bayern Munich in their Group League game on Wednesday. Are there some pretty serious concerns for the Canadian soccer team right now with his status?
No, not really. He got kicked in the head in a league game on Saturday. It didn't look that bad. I think I saw the replay a couple of times. It looked like someone caught him just kind of under the cheek here, and it looked like he's got a bad bone bruise. And of course, obviously, with the concussion situations going on in the NFL and in soccer, I think it's more for precautionary reasons. They're going to keep him out, make sure he's okay. They did call it a skull bruise, so I don't know I don't know how you bruise your skull. I don't know if that's possible, but that's what they called it. So it was a pretty good whack that he took on his face, and he bruised it up. But I think it's more precautionary reasons, and even the coaches at Bayern said he'll be fine, nothing to worry about. And obviously, you're getting into this 6-week window, 5-week window leading into the World Cup, and these are really, really tough times for players that want to go play in the World Cup. And it's a tough time for teams too, because you don't want to take your foot off the gas. You still have to play your league games, and you're playing league games leading all the way up to like a week before the World Cup, which is a little different this time around, because when the tournament is in the summer, you have about a month lead into the tournament, and teams have a month to kind of be together. So you have that time. But here, you only have about a week to prepare before you join your team and you play your games. And so you don't want to have any kind of injury, any kind of knock, any kind of twist, any kind of anything going in there. So the good thing about it, though, is that this tournament will be held and the players will be in mid-season form. So I think the quality and the standard of play will be incredibly high, because usually in the summer it's at the end of a year, so you're either really tired from playing all year or you're a little rusty from taking a month off after your season. So I think the soccer in Qatar is going to be amazing, and you just kind of hope that everyone stays healthy and everyone stays fit by the time they get there.
Did Canada impress you? Did they show you things maybe that you weren't sure that they had in them? Or what, did you see anything different from them in their 2 games that you saw?
Yeah, I think what I saw with Canada is they needed to play teams like Uruguay leading up to this tournament, and I think they'll be the first ones to tell you. They should have been playing, opposition like Uruguay 3 years before the tournament, not 6 weeks before it. But I think what it showed is that they are capable of playing with those teams. They are capable of playing with some higher-end teams. But like anything else, you're not going to get better unless you play better opposition. So beating up on Curacao and playing Panama and playing Honduras and playing El Salvador and Guatemala, some of these teams in CONCACAF, just isn't going to cut it. It's going to help your record. It's going to make you look good. Look, we can beat these teams, but you're not going to improve on the world stage unless you play these teams. And I think that's kind of a lesson that the Canadians know, they understand, but it's tough to get these games. So I think a good showing at the World Cup will do wonders for this team, because they'll be able to get those opponents, not necessarily your top-end, high-end opponents, but you'll be able to get your second-tier European opponents, your second-tier South American opponents, and you're going to improve in doing that way. But I think Canada, if anything, they showed that they can play with those teams. They belong on the same field as those teams, and if the ball is rolling their way, who knows? They could get a good result in Qatar. But as I talked to John Herdman about it, he goes, let's start by scoring a goal, then let's worry about winning a game or getting a point, worry about winning a game, and then worry about getting out of the group. We can't put the cart in front of the horse. It's one step at a time for this soccer team.
All right, well, last time we chatted with you, Dak Prescott was injured. You were heading overseas, and you were like, the Cowboys just have to play 500. They're 4-1. Like, they haven't lost. I mean, this is bizarre. And listen, I don't think anybody out there is saying Cooper Rush is the reason, but he did keep this team afloat. Dak can come back. The defense is looking good. You got to be pretty happy.
Oh, I'm delighted. You have to be delighted. They're 4-0 without Dak in the lineup. And I think what happens, and we've seen this in sports sometimes, is when your star player goes down, other players pick up their game. Other players know that they have to pick up their game. They have to add a little more. And then if everyone adds a little more, then hopefully you can make up the difference. And Cooper Rush is doing the things that he's not doing anything outside of his realm. They're not asking him to do anything he's not capable of. He's not making mistakes with the football. He's protecting the football. And he's making some quality throws. You know, he's making some good throws, some good reads on third down. But basically, you can't be the guy that loses the game for the Cowboys, and I think that's right now is what he's doing. I think he's playing well. He's not necessarily the reason they're winning. I think defensively they're playing a lot better. They're running the ball a lot better. The offensive line is playing a lot better. So there's a lot of factors that go in there. But Cooper Rush, like I said, just play 500, and when they get back, they'll be in good shape. And I don't think anyone expected them to go 4-0 without Dak Prescott in the lineup. So when he comes back, the Cowboys are going to be in really good shape. And also because everyone else raised the standard of their play, and then if he comes back and that standard stays high, then I think the Cowboys could make some noise heading towards the playoffs.
Yeah, and Michael Gallup. It's a good situation. They're getting healthy and looking pretty good. All right, my man, this has been fun. The season starts tonight in North America, starts tomorrow for the Oilers and you guys. So looking forward to hopefully getting down there and being around. And I hope you like steak, because I got some really nice GCs from Acme Meats, one of the best butcher shops in Edmonton, to lay on you. So thanks as always for joining me, DVD, and enjoy the game tomorrow night.
Sounds good. Appreciate that, Dean. Thanks for having me on.
You betcha. There's Derek Van Diest of Post Media and NHL.com. And yeah, some guests of the show in the local area receive gift certificates from Acme Meats. We got a turkey. We got half a turkey for Thanksgiving and another half we saved for Christmas from Acme. Corey Meyer, part of Canada's World International Butcher team at the International Butcher World Championships. So, you know, our butcher is a superstar in the Canadian team, and their steaks are just out of this world. We had a ribeye the other night. Oh, man. So good. And whatever else you need, Acme Meats in the Ritchie neighborhood of Edmonton. Local guests that appear on this show get delicious steaks. So don't you wish you were appearing on this show to grab something from Acme Meats? Now I'm hungry. Now, how much longer do I have on this show? I'm really hungry. I want to get into it.